Okay, so I've been deep diving in the Warhammer stuff in the past week or so, or more. I already followed Warhammer and I already known a bunch of lore, but this new stuff it just made me go even deeper than that. So the addition of female Custodes are literally either pissing off everyone or not pissing off anyone. There's a lot of controversy about it. There's a lot of thing going on about it, a lot of drama everywhere, especially on YouTube and Twitter. Reddit seems to be pretty cool with it for some reason. But yeah, let's see. Critical Drunky Monkey videos, the Critical Drinkers video, excuse me. I have not really, I don't think I watched a video from him before, but this seems interesting. Just to get some other perspective than my own, so let's see.
There's been a bit of a ruckus in the Warhammer 40k community in recent days after the parent company Games Workshop decided to make some changes to the lore of their fictional universe. And well, they have...
This is not has anything to do with Warhammer. I love his voice. I don't know why, it's so good. He kind of sounds like Lizardpig.
haven't exactly been well received. But what changes did they make to cause such a backlash, you might ask? Well, this is where I'm gonna have to delve into the lore a little bit, so indulge me. The simplistic view is that Warhammer 40k is set in a fictional future where mankind is locked into a state of constant warfare across the galaxy, and has devolved into a kind of quasi-religious military dictatorship where human life is cheap and all that matters is the survival of the Imperium. To quote the company themselves, in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war. Nice. It's a neat
That sentence is actually sounds so damn good still. It's insane.
setting for tabletop wargaming, and there's an absolute metric ton of lore and history that's gradually been built up around it over the decades.
Yep.
In fact, you can actually ignore the gaming side of things altogether and just immerse yourself in the fictional worlds.
The story itself is incredible, and there's so many stuff already in Warhammer. You can literally find whatever you want. You don't even have to go for 40k. There's even Sigmar and all that lore before the 40k stuff. So it's really damn good.
There's more than enough books, short stories, graphic novels, video games, and magazine articles to keep you amused for decades. Anyway, one of the most iconic symbols of the 40k universe has got to be the Space Marines, genetically and surgically enhanced super soldiers wrapped up in power armor that are deployed to the most critical war zones across the galaxy. They're the very apex of human warfare, and the elite amongst them are the Custodes.
Okay. The Custodes are not elite amongst the Space Marines. The Custodes and the Space Marines have little to do with each other. It's like comparing Guardsmen to Space Marines. They are nowhere near comparable. First of all, the Space Marines are mass-produced, they use ginseng, and there's a totally different process. And the Space Marines has like more organs and stuff. Custodes does not have that. They are humans, self-tailored by the Emperor from literally since they were babies. So it's very different. Two very different things. So mixing up Space Marines and Custodes are lore-wise a huge mistake. The only similarity that they have are they are using like power armors, maybe you can say that, and that they are like crafted and made by the Imperium, although the Custodes are made by like individually made, so it's so different, and their fighting style is very different too, because the Space Marine is like a brotherhood. They fight in groups, they are meant to fight in groups. The Custodes are like a fancy palace guard basically that are like inhumanely strong and incredibly strong, like much stronger usually than a Space Marine, although we've seen some Space Marines that can keep up with them, but it is not even comparable, the two things. So to say that they are like somewhat comparable, no. For simplicity's sake, I guess you can say it, because they kinda look similar, although the Space armor looks much cooler and it is a much better armor. They use the same materials the Emperor uses for his armor, so it's like not even that comparable, so don't say that, please.
Personal bodyguards of the Emperor of
Yeah.
Mankind. In short,
And they even failed at that one job that they had, so it's like, yeah.
these are not guys with whom to fuck. Now, there's a lot of lore surrounding the Space Marines and the Custodes themselves, how they're created and how they function, but one of the most fundamental aspects of their creation is that they're all male, hence the reason they're all referred to as battle brothers.
Yeah, yes. Although, we have that little sentence in one of the chronicles or whatever, that they are like, the Custodes are chosen from the sons of Terra. That's literally the only thing that we have that like supports the claim that the Custodes are actually all male. Or we can refer to this brotherhood thing, but the Custodes are not really a brotherhood. They usually fight in solo, even when they are deployed in large quantities. They're not fighting together. How should I say? They're all fighting their own little battles inside the battle, so they're just soloing everything. Because they are Palace Guard. They are not a brotherhood, and they're not a legion in that sense, like the Space Marines. They are very different in that aspect. And we have little to like nothing that we know actually about how the Custodes are created. Like we have some stuff that we know, that they are created in really small quantities, and they are super special. They are individually crafted by the Emperor himself. And other stuff that we know, that the survival rate of making a Custody is incredibly low. So I could see the Imperium and the Emperor go for the girl babies too, because it is just so rare that you can actually make a Custodes out of babies. So ignoring more than half of the population to make a super soldier is kind of ignorant, to be honest. So yeah.
I know, right? Who would have thought that an oppressive, xenophobic, totalitarian military regime wouldn't have diversity and inclusion initiatives?
The Imperium have a bunch of diversity, as it is. I don't know why everyone forgets about the sisters. And not even just the sisters, even just basic psychers, a bunch of guardsmen. So many things can be women in the Imperium too.
Reasons for this are a combination of established lore, the target audience, and, well, basic common sense. From the lore side of things, the process for creating Space Marines is only compatible with male physiology, and there's no way to adapt.
Custodes are not Space Marines, once again, and we barely know anything about how they are created.
It to work on female bodies.
I didn't want to shit on this video, first of all, but these are just like, I feel like lore mistakes that everyone makes because they think our Custodes are Space Marines when they are not.
The super advanced technology used to do it is barely even understood by this point in history, and to be honest, there's never been a whole lot of incentive to pursue it because, well, what's the point? Only the strongest, toughest, and most resilient individuals can even hope to survive the process of being turned into a Space Marine, much less a Custodes. To put it into context, less than a fraction of 1% of the population would even be considered as candidates, which pretty much rules women out of the equation, so
I would not say that. You need a lot of people to even craft Space Marines, because their survivability is low too. But the Custodes survivability is even lower than that. It's incredibly low. So you don't have that luxury to just don't even consider half of the population.
it always seemed like a question that basically answered itself. And if I had to guess, I'd say a lot of this probably comes down to Games Workshop having a solid understanding of their target audience and what they like. Because, how can I put this? Not all that many girls are into tabletop wargaming.
True.
You don't say.
There's some, for sure, I'm not taking anything away from them, but generally if I had to pick the people who are most likely to be into things like Warhammer, well, it's gonna be guys like this. And for a good 30 years or so, everyone seemed pretty happy with that state of affairs. The problem is that Warhammer started to get popular, really popular, and so it was only a matter of time before it attracted the attention of modern audiences. Not tabletop gamers playing today, of course, or even just women who happen to enjoy the hobby, but instead activists who totally don't give a shit about anything to do with 40k, but just want to score another little victory in the endless war to dominate every single aspect of entertainment and culture.
That is a really good point that he makes here. There's a lot of activists that get into these spaces and try to push their own agenda here. But just because they are doing that, we don't have to push our own agenda against them, you know? So we have to be kind of balanced and fair, because even if people are, or like Games Workshop wants to push diversity, there is a space and like a way to push diversity in a way that it's not going to ruin the source material, it's not going to like corrupt the source material, and it's just going to add more value into the whole universe overall, especially for the future. One thing I really hope for with this whole female Custodes edition, that we actually are going to learn how are they made, how are they like created by the Emperor, like a little flashback how he used to like create them, craft them individually. That is such a cool thing to learn about, and if this is the way to that, then I am down.
Push to make the world of 40k more diverse and inclusive has been going on for a while now, and one of the big objectives they've been gunning for is female space marines. Because truly,
if they add female space marines, I would be the first one that's like going to riot. That is not a thing. No. Space Marine and Custodes are very, very different. And the way that they are making Space Marines are actually tailored for males. The gene seeds and everything for males. So the Space Marines and the Custodes in this regard are very different too.
woman doesn't want to see herself represented as a psychopathic 8-foot-tall genetically engineered killing machine. It doesn't matter to these people that 30 years of lore says it can't be done. It doesn't matter that most actual gamers don't want to see it happen. It doesn't matter that there's already entire armies of female-only soldiers specifically created to give women more of a presence in the game worlds. All that matters is winning, breaking down another barrier, homogenizing and blending everything together into an
this winning only matters winning goes both ways too, because I see many people pushing up against the female Custodes things because they just hate woke stuff, and I get it. Woke stuff sucks, okay? It ruined a lot of things, but that doesn't mean we cannot like include these things or be open to some of these things, you know? And I get there is a lot of stuff going on in the background with like, what's that, BlackRock or what the company's name is, and pushing for diversity and push it like that. But there's enough diversity here, and to choose the Custodes to be the females, I mean, who had one job that they failed at? I don't know if that's the best choice to choose to make females out of, you know?
Distinguishable grey sludge of inclusion, gleefully taking another treasured thing away from their enemies so they can gloat about it and push for even greater victories next time. And a few days ago, they moved one step closer to their goal with the release of a new rulebook from Games Workshop, where it casually dropped in the fact that female Custodes are now apparently a thing.
Fuck.
That's pretty interesting, considering they've literally never been spoken about before, and everything we know about them suggests that can't happen, but okay.
No. Not everything we know about suggests that they can't happen. Especially because they are every Custodes are self-tailored by the Emperor. Don't tell me there is no way that a female can be made into a Custode. There is just no way that they cannot be made. The thing that pisses people off as how are they implementing this? That is the shitty part. The how are they going about these things? Because the way Games Workshop are implementing this is disgusting and just fucking shitty. Just to put it lightly, it's really bad. They could have made it so much better.
Hey, sure. Naturally, fans were confused by this, and when they were questioned about it on Twitter, Games Workshop's response was simple and blunt. Since the first of the 10,000 were created, there have always been female custodians.
Which would be okay if you would give us the lore for it. You cannot just say this and not back it up. This is the shit part.
Liar! You know, I can't help thinking that you guys are trying to do a bit of rewriting of history here. I can't help thinking that you've finally started to bow to pressure from modern audiences, and you were almost certainly encouraged to do this by a sudden infusion of investment money from BlackRock. I can't help thinking that maybe you're trying to gaslight your own fans into believing we've always been at war with East Asia. And apparently, I'm not the only one. But Drinker, you absolute titan of tabletop tactics, I hear you say, the 40k universe is rife with misinformation, retcons and rewrites. Things are constantly being changed and added to the lore, so why should this be any different?
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Well, let me stop you there, heretic, because there's a few little misconceptions that I'd like to clear up on this one. The development of the Warhammer universe over—
Hold on. Calling those people heretic when you don't even consider that the emperor of mankind can make females into Custodes? Who is the heretic? That's just a joke.
the past 30 years is less of a constantly shifting chessboard and more like a telescope that's slowly coming into focus. In the early days back in the 80s, things were intentionally vague and a lot of details were still waiting to be filled in because the developers hadn't worked everything out yet. But over the years, those details have been filled in with hundreds of articles, books, games and rule sets, and while certain details might have been—
That is true for the Space Marines. It is not true for the Custodes. There's a lot of lore out for the Custodes, but overall we barely know anything about how they were created. It is really vague. Really damn vague.
Corrected and expanded on many times over, the general setting, history, characters, rulebooks and foundations of the world have actually stayed extremely consistent. So no,
That's
that
true.
excuse doesn't wash with me anymore, boyo. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, the lore is something you should respect enough to work around instead of constantly changing. Because believe it or not, people actually—
Exactly. I think that is why they don't went for the female Space Marines. Because we have like a step-by-step guide on how to make Space Marines. We don't have the same with Custodes.
get invested in this stuff. They buy into the fictional world you've created, and the more you fuck with that, the more difficult you make it for those people to stay invested because they know that at any moment, some prick might decide to completely rewrite it to suit their own selfish bullshit needs. But Drinker, it's just one little change. Why do you care so much if there's female Custodes? That's an interesting question, but here's an even better one. Why did you care so much that there weren't female Custodes? Why did it bother you so much that you've spent years complaining about it? Why do you feel so strongly that this thing must be changed? And why do you get—
I feel like his viewpoint is pushing another agenda, to be honest. In some cases. Like, keeping this whole thing a man-only thing, and pushing that is not good either. And pushing the other side is not— so these two should, like, able to coexist.
so defensive when people question you about it? As heel versus babyface so correctly observed, it's really easy to ask the old "why do you care so much" question once you've gotten what you want. It's easy to
That's
defend
fair.
the status quo once the status quo has been changed to suit your demands. Until of course you've decided—
Although, here I have to say, I didn't want female Custodes. Ever. I barely even cared about Custodes. I thought they look cool. That's it. I am literally a Salamander and a Tau main. I like those two factions. And if they would add Salamander female Space Marines, well, that's not happening because they can't. For that, they actually have to rewrite so much stuff because we have how the Space Marines are made. That's different. And the Taus have Shadow Sun. They have enough females, to be honest.
that it has to change again, in which case you certainly will care about this stuff again. And make no mistake, they will demand that more things be changed to suit them. And I guess that's the real crux of this argument here. It's
I
the
guess
reason
so.
Warhammer fans are pushing back so loudly against it. It's not just what the change is, although that's pretty bad all by itself, but it's what it represents that's the bigger issue. It's the sacrifice of artistic freedom on the altar of identity politics. This right here, boys and girls, is the thin edge of the wedge. It's the first little crack in the dam that'll eventually become a gaping hole. Because here's the thing, the moment you make any concession, no matter how tiny, you've already given the game away. You've made it known that you're prepared to bow down to their demands if they put enough pressure on you. And so inevitably, their demands are never going to end. They'll literally never be happy because there's always going to be some other thing, some other piece of problematic lore, some other rule or exclusionary detail that has to be altered to comply with their constantly evolving demands. And
I feel like these things, like the Vogue stuff and other things, are getting a pushback nowadays. A lot of pushback. And they are... how should I say it? They're achieving the exact opposite they wanted to achieve. Because diversity before woke stuff was a thing already. There is inclusion of almost everything in many things. So pushing for it in this way is just the wrong way to do. Diversity and representation and all that should come naturally from these things. And they are coming naturally too from many things. So this thing is just so fucked, you know? It really is.
All in the name of inclusion and diversity. Because these people don't care about your hobby, they don't care about integrating into a community of like-minded individuals. All they care about is that the community bends and reshapes itself to suit them, until eventually they bend it so much that it breaks. People like that are complete and utter poison for any hobby, any fandom, any franchise. All they ever manage to do is stir up conflict, resentment and division, driving people away and turning fans against the very company that tries to pander to them. Because their very reason for existing is to undermine and destroy the thing they claim that they're trying to save. And if you've got any common sense whatsoever, or any love for the fandom that you're so passionate about, you'll think very carefully before bending the knee to them. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
A few things to point out after watching this video. Many people falsely making the claim that the Custodes are similar to Space Marines. They are kind of, but they are very different, to be fair. And many people are arguing with the Space Marine creation stuff that there cannot be female Custodes. That is just not true, to be honest. The whole woke agenda pushing, I can see that. I can see the concerns about that, because it is happening in many places, in many damn places around the internet and everywhere. We can push back against it so they are clear about our intentions. And if they would have added like female Space Marines, we should have burned them down to the ground, to be honest. Because that is just not a thing, and it's never going to be a thing. But the custody issue, it was already very vague. You know, I understand the outrage of it. I really do understand that why people are outraging about it. I would be if it was something that was like so stone set, like the Space Marines creation and everything. I would be doing the same thing that they are doing, going full speed against it. But this is just not that big of a deal in itself. The whole process is a big deal. Trying to appeal to certain audiences and trying to push force diversity and wokeness into this thing, they should stop doing that. They really should stop doing that. And we should not let them do that, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, I said my piece during the video, so I don't really have anything more to add. I said my piece in the comments in my previous video about this voting before. So thank you all for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, and subscribe to Critical Thinker too. I will put his video in the description below. It was a damn good video. I just really got pissed off when people are mixing up Space Marines and Custodes. That's the only thing. That's the only criticism I have. Sorry. Bye bye.